Welcome to the Business Empowerment Podcast, the show that keeps you in the know with what you need to know in business and technology and for yourself so you can grow. Welcome to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Rob House, and my co-host, Wilton Rogers, got insight for miles and miles. We'll give you what you need to know. Get ready for the Business Empowerment Podcast. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen?
What is up? What's up?
Boys and girls, people all around the world. Welcome to the Business Empowerment Podcast, the show that brings you insights on business, technology, and leadership. Man, but you can't forget about those thought leaders that are leading the way, because it wouldn't be anything without these guys and gals, man.
Absolutely. We know we wouldn't be where we're at if it wasn't for them, right?
Yeah. Listen, everything is an idea until somebody moves it forward. Okay. Right. And I'm just thankful, man. I'm thankful for the people we've been able to meet on. Let's just talk about LinkedIn. We were just talking about that. I'm just thankful about the people and relationships we've been able to cultivate on that platform. I'm talking about like real, genuine, long-lasting, strong, impactful, needle-moving relationships, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I don't know. You saw my post. I hadn't been on LinkedIn for a minute, right? Just because of all the transitioning and the personal and business transition, the whole thing. So I haven't been on. And when I got back in, I was like, I gotta post something. The first thing I thought about is like, LinkedIn has been the game changer, man, for our company, for us.
Yeah.
You know, and it all started there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the introduction started there. You know, the business, the relationships, and all that were offline for sure, but it all started there.
Yeah,
the clients that we work with find us or do their research on us on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a client this morning, man. He's from Europe. He had been following for a minute, and he said he wants to work with us directly because he's been following me. He saw my character, and he knows that we're good people. He followed the business, and he sees that alone right there. You know, it's like you never know that's gonna. That wasn't expected. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know,
it's like a live resume.
That's it. You know, we're in an area where we live where there's nothing available. Nothing, like no houses, right? We got the house because the guy found me on LinkedIn, and he followed me because I liked your character and
my goodness
and everything else on LinkedIn,
dude.
And there was over 30 applications for that.
I didn't know that. That's crazy,
dude. So it's a powerful platform, man. I mean,
it's powerful for what you just said. You're able to build relationships and get to know people very quickly. Very quickly, and that's what this is all about. It's all about, you know, establishing relationships. That's the most powerful capital. I'll say it till I'm blue and every other color in the face. Relationship capital is the most powerful capital on the planet. More powerful than financial capital. More powerful than your mental capital and anything. Because it's relationships that are going to be able to you're going to grow from, and it's going to help you move forward, man.
Amen.
In business. And in looking for a place to live. Come on, somebody. You better watch out.
yeah, for sure. It's growing. And not only that, as I think our partnership and our circle is growing big time. You know, we know where to look for it. You know, we have that network already that's introducing us to other people. Literally, the people that we're connected with introduce us to people that aren't even on LinkedIn, but they're part of our inner circle because they're introduced from people that we are engaged with on LinkedIn. It's insane, you know?
Yep.
So,
hey,
Sherry, Beverly Hills in the house. All right.
Beverly Hills. Actually, I really want to go there. I've been to Cali a couple of times, but never Beverly Hills. I really want to go there.
You never been there?
Never been there.
Yeah, man, it's cool. I think we were there. It's been a few years. That's when I was in the hotel industry. They sent me down there for a training, and we toured it downtown, and we went over there. It was cool. You know? I think as a little kid, I enjoyed it more because, you know, you're starstruck and you don't see any stars, but you see all the stars and all that. You know, it's cool, but man, it's a nice place.
That's good. That's good. So today, man, we have a guest. He hasn't shown up in the green room just yet. We'll see if he may be having some technical tornadoes, or sometimes the technical tornadoes does something with the time, and maybe that got mixed up. We'll see if he shows up. But until then, man, we will first. This is the Business Empowerment Podcast. We've been doing this for a minute, for
Mhm.
a little bit of time now, over a year. I gotta go see when we started doing this. It's been over a year.
Has it?
And yeah, it's been over a year because it was we started at the top of the year, and we weren't video, we were just pod. And then we
Right.
went 4 months later, we went Business Empowerment Podcast live, and then next quarter we're gonna be doing Business Empowerment Podcast. We're still gonna keep it live, but it's also gonna be on Apple,
Right.
Spotify, iTunes in the podcast section. So it's the evolution. But
Mhm.
if he doesn't come, we still got some things to share. Be back in a
Absolutely.
second. Simply automate. Automation made simple. Simply automate. Simply automate. Automation made simple. Simply automate. Simple. That's right. It's simple. And this podcast is brought to you by Simply Automate, formerly known as Scale Through Automation. Scale Through Automation transformed into Simply Automate. It's like a caterpillar,
Mhm.
crawled up into a cocoon, came out, beautiful butterfly,
I
soaring
agree.
across the world.
That's it. That's true, man. It's very true. I think over the last few months, even the transition we've been experiencing have been unreal. It's been it's something that you and I have been talking about for years, but it's not until it really happens that you start seeing the fruits of your labor starting to take effect, right?
Hmm.
And the people that we're starting to impact, that we talked about impacting, that we're actually listening to the stories now, it's like we're doing it.
Yep, we're
We're
doing
doing
it.
but it's been a group effort. It hasn't been me or you, it's been us. And we have a heck of a team behind us, 10 plus people behind us that are making an impact. So it's just it's humbling to know that we have such an amazing supporting cast, and very grateful to be in the position that we're in right now to make that impact
Yeah.
on people. you
Yep.
know you know I know we have time. It's like we're live anyway, so we can talk about whatever until if he shows up, great. If we'll run some other stuff. But um I was talking to a friend of mine. He called to see how things were going. Some things are going great, because I told him we moved. We're here in Austin now, and he was like, man, I thought your business was like just a small business. I thought we've been advertising it and you've been doing stuff, but I thought it was just like a just a one man show or a 2-person show, and you were just doing it from the comfort of your own home. You know, and I told him most people actually think that. It's like even my family, friends and family, you talk to them, it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're actually a corporation, like a real corporation.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we're a real corporation. It's not, although we're working from home, it's not a home-based business,
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um,
Well. My wife's family think I'm Tommy, so you know,
Tommy,
from Martin. Basically. So we're us all good.
Tommy, he passed away, man. Did you know that?
I know. Rest in peace, man. I know. It touched me when it happened.
Yeah,
That brother, man, funny though, dude. So funny.
so I think that most people in our position that know us, because we're grinders, man. We're honestly, it's like there's, be honest, a lot of people just settle. they get comfortable and they do very well. They're working for somebody, and but they, there is they're limited to where they can go and what they can do, right? And they sort of answer to rules, right?
Hmm.
We've always had that mindset to challenge the status quo, you know. And I think we came together, you know, people thought we were crazy, probably, your family, my family probably thought, come on, man, just get a regular job, man. What do you guys think you're doing? And, I said, we're changing the world. And like, yeah, whatever. And pretty soon now, a lot of people that are real close and they actually see what we're doing, see what, they're like, oh, wow, you're really doing it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You're really doing it. So it's been amazing, man. So it's
Yeah,
been, it's,
we're really doing it. And what I like about that, I like when there is a lack of understanding and support. I do, because that just means you don't know that much about it. So then I get the opportunity and the blessing to be able to educate and
right,
open the eyes,
right,
and lead the way in a way, because everybody doesn't know.
right.
But what I do know is our guest just showed up in the green room. I see him down
Yeah,
there,
yes.
Lyle. Yeah, Lyle. And we're gonna bring him up in a second. And remember, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. As a matter of fact, wherever you are watching this, please let us know where you are. This is an amazing idea. The internet allows us all be in the same living room at the same time. Africa, Asia, China, Buffalo, and Crofton, all in the same place at the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah,
You know.
that's right.
So when we come back, we'll have our guests here and get a chance to share some time, get some insight, and a little extra wisdom. See you in a second. Business burnout can be so overwhelming. So many things to do and not enough time to do them. Deadlines to meet with time ticking away quickly. Multiple repetitive tasks that must be completed every single day. What if you could cut that list in half? What if you could automate 50, 60, 70% of what you do every day? You would have less stress. You could get more done in less time. And your company would make more money. Less stress and more money? See how RPA can change your day. Hey, hey, welcome, Lyle. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. I apologize. While I checked in early, I didn't scroll down to see that I had to click one more thing. So I apologize.
Hey, all right. We were just sitting here chatting, chopping it up. We knew you'd be in here when you could.
Lyle, pleasure to meet you. Heard some great things about you.
Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed what I've been able to view so far, and especially enjoyed my prior conversations with Rob. So thank you.
Nice.
Lyle is he's helping. He's a finance guy, but not personal finance, student loans, family finance. But he also has some other gifts and talents. And so Lyle Solomon, am I pronouncing your name correctly? First of all,
Yes, thank you.
okay, okay. You know, so first, let's just give us an intro on who you are and kind of why you do what you do. You know,
Okay.
let the world know who they're
All
talking
right.
to.
Well, let me see if I can make this short. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of California. I have been for the past 18 years. My law practice is limited to civil matters, which has got me into the arena of, I'm sorry, dealing with consumer debt. Um, most of my most of my practice is in that arena, dealing both. I have dealt with banks, huge, large banks, credit card companies, and collection agencies, both on their behalf and on behalf of consumers in trying to um, resolve those issues. Beyond that, as I said, my practice is civil. One of the reasons that I was a little anxious on getting in here today was I'm preparing for a trial in 3 weeks related to breach of contract between two individuals, basically a landlord and a tenant. So that the remainder of my practice that does not deal with consumer debt is related in that way to civil disputes between individuals, companies, and parties like that. The big question I get asked all the time, in fact, I had an email on it yesterday, was, well, what about my family law question? What about my divorce? Please, I don't want to deal with with those type of matters at all. While they can include finance, they are a very different animal. The same with criminal court. I used to joke that I've been in criminal court only a few times in my career, and those times have been either because of a family member, and fortunately that's been the fewest number, and on behalf of a small business client who ran into some trouble with the law. So it's mostly civil practice. It's what I enjoy. Although if you had asked me 25, 30 years ago when I started on this path to become an attorney, I would have told you that I was focused on doing criminal law until I spent a year in a civil practice. And while I didn't follow that attorney into personal injury, I found civil practice to be more interesting to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is your favorite thing to practice? What is your sweet spot?
Well, like I say, it's one of the things that I did early in my career and that I still enjoy is writing and research. And prior to obtaining my law license, I in fact worked with different firms, and I have written briefs. I can say winning briefs in every appellate court in California and to the U.S. Supreme Court. And that is quite satisfying when I can receive something that needs to be researched and find a way to prevail on it. So that has been one of the things that I've always enjoyed. And in fact, in part of preparing for trial, in preparing all of those what are called pretrial motions. And also in this particular trial, I've prepared a motion that I hope to present in the middle of trial. And if I am successful, it will end the trial. So, that's kind of like you ask about a sweet spot. That's kind of where it is if I had my druthers, I would sit at my computer all day, or sit out in the backyard under all day, reviewing, writing, and revising documents. So
that's good. Lyle, what would you say the biggest problem is that you solve? You solve a lot of problems. What do you think the biggest one is? Or help solve. Sometimes even your solution may not be the concluder, but it's a big problem. What do you think the biggest one is?
Well, the biggest problem is, I think, overcoming consumer debt. And
okay,
one of my former small business clients, and that they started with me in about 2008, 2009 in the midst of that recession. And they had let me just put a little background here.
Okay.
They had two of their biggest customers who were on accounts receivable. They were making payments every month for services and goods received, but they were ongoing. And within the same within a 130-day period, both of those customers filed bankruptcy
Hmm.
due to the downturn in the economy, specifically in construction. As a result, I spent the next 3 or 4 years with my then partner, um, helping that company stay in business and stay solvent.
Hmm.
And I say that because, like what happens with most small businesses, they were reliant on those accounts receivable to be able to pay their suppliers,
Right.
so forth, each month. As a result, at one point, I think we counted 16 suppliers that we were having to deal with and negotiate with, and
Hmm.
as well as government agencies and entities, because of that, the downturn. And I can tell you that mine was, that was, my experience was not unique at that time. At the same time, I was having to go after, um, other people for that business, smaller companies that had been buying from them that had defaulted on their payments
Hmm.
and hadn't gone to bankruptcy yet. So that to me is one of the biggest things that I help resolve and it happens for both individuals and businesses in resolving their issues with a creditor and figuring out a lot of times how to avoid bankruptcy,
Hmm.
as well as, and there are times that I advise people that bankruptcy may be their best option, but for the most part, when possible, I try to find a way to avoid that.
I like
Well,
that.
I have a comment on the question. I think we've learned as well. I've learned, you know, don't rely on one or two clients to pay your for your business's
Hmm.
future, right? So
Right.
you got to be able to diversify what you can do and spread your wings a little bit large or longer, so you don't have to rely on them. Because if one of them, I always look at it, if one of them, even in our place that we're in right now, it's like, okay, what happens to this vendor if he goes down? What are we going to do about this? So we already have that backup plan if something ever happens, right? So we already sort of prepare ourselves for that. But the question, I guess, is you led into a little bit. So obviously they lost the big two clients, right? So that, I mean, that would make you lose sleep overnight, right? Obviously. Um, but you were able to keep them in business by collecting from the clients that weren't collecting from, or was it more changing their model of how they're collecting and getting paid? What was? Can you explain a little bit more in detail, like how was it? How were you able to? Because that I've seen businesses go down because of that same situation. Like they relied on certain, whether it was back in the mortgage fall or was back in the pandemic, they lost the business because they relied on,
Receivables.
yeah, receivables from a certain from a few clients, right? And because they lost that, because they're out of business, or they went with somebody else, or whatever the case may be, they went out of business. How were you able to? You said a little bit about it, but how are we able to keep them in business? Because that's huge,
Yeah.
especially when you lose big companies like that, and that's your bread and butter. Can you explain a little more detail on that?
Well, in that particular case, the biggest thing we did, my partner and I, was contacting every one of those creditors, those suppliers who were and negotiating with them to take a smaller payment and to spread over a longer period of time. Their normal, where they were normally a 30 or 60-day pay, we were able to discuss with them and turn it then into a 180-day or even a full year payment plan. and
Mm. Extended
and
payment plan. That's nice.
and with the understanding, I mean, our biggest objective there was, this was a company that relied had to have those suppliers. And while there might, there's not there's not an infinite number of suppliers for any product. And so, and because they already had relationships with those suppliers, they wanted to keep them. And so, our job was to go in and say, hey, look, these are the circumstances, and and only revealing as much as our client was comfortable with us revealing, but then talking about how can we work together. And we didn't go in dictating terms. That's the first thing. I so often talk with people that say, this is it, this is all I can do, and if they don't do this, we're done. And so my first job there is to change that mindset a little bit, expand it, look at different options, and then going and presenting them to their suppliers and talking with them. And quite frankly, with some of those suppliers, I had to say, my client is discussing bankruptcy. And if you proceed, if we can't come to some kind of agreement here, that's where they're going to end up. We don't want to do that, but that is an option. And, that's not always the case that I use that, but with that particular client and with several of their suppliers, that was after much discussion, we felt the best tactic. And I can tell you that, like I say, I think it was 16 suppliers. Out of those 16, I think we had 14 enter into payment plans after after some discussion. The two that did not enter into plans immediately tried other means to collect from my clients, and ended up in the end with a payment plan, because it was, it's one of those things where what do they say? A bird in hand is better than two in the bush.
Yeah.
I can give you this right now, and I keep giving you this every month until we're caught up, and
right.
Or you can come and try and take, this particular client had trucks that were essential to their business, and a couple of those two suppliers who didn't agree to a plan immediately tried to take those trucks, or take some of those trucks. Well, they found out very quickly that the trucks were leased, and they couldn't do anything. They weren't. They couldn't attach them. They couldn't get anything for them. So, that's just the big thing there.
Yeah. So you're listening to or watching the Business Empowerment Podcast. We're talking with Lyle Solomon. He's the principal attorney at the Oakview Law Group, and it'll help you get your finances together. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and hear some of your tips that you have for small businesses. Be back in a second.
My name is Marvin Romero. I'm a small business owner. I have a personal injury firm with 2 employees, and I came across Scale Through Automation on LinkedIn. I wasn't sure if they'd work with small businesses because they already were doing things on a larger scale, but I reached out to Wilton Rogers and his team anyway. We met in early December. They told me they could help out my small business and we could automate some processes that were actually taking up a lot of our time. So we had a meeting the first week of December. After that meeting, I received a questionnaire, filled out that questionnaire. Within a week, we had a Zoom meeting where we talked about all the things that the bot should be able to do, what the automated process would entail, and what I actually wanted to accomplish. 7 days or less from that date, we actually had a bot to look at and a demo to run. And within 3 weeks and before Christmas, we had an automated process for the business. It was amazing to see that the team came together and put together an automated process within 30 days and also during the month of Christmas. Scale through automation definitely came through for my business.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, scale through automation, now simply automate. And Wilton, every time I play that video, I love it. I love the fact that it was just 3 employees, 2.5 employees, one being
Right.
the lawyer, able to save them 40 hours in 1 week, 1,000 hours in a year. I love that.
Yeah.
But I would love for it to say simply automate now. Every
Yeah.
time you play the promo, you have to tell. I was thinking about doing? Just putting on there on the side, now known as simply automate.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so comforting to know that what we do is available for any size company, right? And that's the great thing about it. So yeah, man, I love
Yeah.
seeing that video. In fact, I'm gonna ask him maybe I'll just tell him to do another one that says
that'd be good. Marvin's cool. I think he will do another one. He probably has more stories because he has more experiences after that one. So
Right.
yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Lyle, we are happy to have you here. We are your champions for, small and medium sized business owners and businesses. We are champions for them because we know, they don't always have access to all the things that they need, or they don't know how to get to all the things that they need. So, information, I think, is the most powerful thing on the planet. Most powerful thing. If you use it right, it turns into wisdom. What are some tips you can give? Maybe some small, medium, let's go size business owners. What's some tips that you would give them based off your experience?
Well,
Let's refine it real quick. Tips for business owners just getting started. Let's talk about those first time, because a lot of people just getting started. What are some things they got to be thinking about? And that's the thing about it, getting your mind on the thoughts so you don't have these problems in the future. Maybe answer that question.
one of the biggest things that I think about and that people need to think about when opening a business is who is your target customer, and are there enough of them? Realistically, I mean, when I've been self-employed now off and on for 20, 25, 26 years. And the very first time I started working for myself, I was in law school. I was already older. I entered law school at age 35. There was, and I still had, and I had another 5 to 10 years before I was going to be a licensed attorney, before I could actually go out and practice law. So but I knew that I wanted to be working with attorneys and law firms.
Yeah.
At the same time, because of my age, and I had maybe 1 year of experience at that time, I wasn't sought out, and I wasn't, an ideal candidate from my resume. So I started finding ways to get in front of attorneys, get in front of their staff, and finding things that I could do that would be of help to them. I mentioned writing and research before. That became a huge deal.
Oh my goodness.
And it was a great benefit for me because I was in school. I was learning to do those things.
Right.
And so I was able to put it into practice immediately.
So you were able actually to download that thing into your subconscious, and there's some data behind this. Your learning was accelerated because of this, because the moment you teach something, you've now ingrained it into yourself even deeper. So that was a good system that worked out for you there.
It did, and it continues. The other thing that I would advise people starting in a business is don't think you're too good to do anything. I had lunch last week with a friend of mine from law school, and we were discussing how things have been through the pandemic, and I was telling we were talking about different things that we're both kind of doing there. And I said, I some days I still feel like I'm that guy from law school who everybody thought, looked at and said, hey, he'll do anything for $1. And I said, except now it's $1.50. And let me give you an example of that. While I was in law school, I learned I was basically a court runner. That introduced me to court clerks in every county in my area. And there are 3 different courts that I dealt with primarily. So that gave me an insight. And let me tell you how important that is. I dealt with an attorney who had gone from high school to college to law school. And while in law school, he went to work as a law clerk for a large firm. And when he graduated from law school and got his license, he stayed with that large firm. About a year into his employment, they sent him to court. And it was his first time going to court alone. And they said to him when he went to court, take these papers with you and file them with the clerk. It took him several hours in that courtroom, in that courthouse, to figure out where he had to go with that paperwork. And because law school didn't teach him that.
Yeah.
The firm didn't teach him that. It was a practical matter that he didn't know about until he wasted valuable time doing that. So
Right.
I find that, I found that to be a huge help because I started at the bottom. Another part of that, I was asked to go interview witnesses at an accident scene. It gave me the opportunity then to interact with individuals and to figure out how to talk to them to get the information that the attorney I was working for sought. So, my advice would be, don't think you're too good to do something.
That's good.
It doesn't matter that I could go argue a case in court if I don't know how to get that case properly filed with the clerk first, so that it's on the calendar.
Understanding all those important steps. Yeah, all those elements.
So that's I was asked recently by another man, well, what would my advice to a law student be? And I think this can apply to any business owner, is do your homework. If you want to go be, I have a friend who was a great barbecue chef. And I said, so Alan, how did you get started? Well, he started, he knew he liked to cook. He knew he liked to do barbecue. But how was he going to go beyond that? He started following around other caterers and barbecue chefs in the area and learning from them, and not just learning what wood was best and what sauce was best, but how to work with that potential customer and how to price it. And figure out that if I have to pay $2 for this cut of meat, I can't sell it. I can't cook it and deliver it to somebody for only $3. And I think that's where a lot of small businesses fall down is they want to, give a bargain. They want to give their customers value,
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, they don't realize that, doing, like I say, paying $2 for something that you then have to prepare and deliver, you
Yeah.
can't sell for $3 and be a viable business.
Right.
Sure. That dollar gets stressed. It gets stressed so long. An extra dollar could be stressed a long way. If you have a $2 cost and you're only gonna make it a $3 off it, right? So, it, I think to add on to that, I think one thing businesses need is a good attorney because for us, that happened to us where we have a good one, and it's really saved us a lot of headaches and a lot of you know potential lawsuits, just because of the way things are written up, the way we have it worked out, and everything else. That's huge, major. But I got a question for you. I know you said earlier you've been in the industry for about 18 years now. First, I actually two questions. Um, what got you into the industry as such, the latter part of your career, and what were you doing prior that said, okay, you know what, this might be a flip that I want to do.
Okay. I have to start way back on this. All right. I was about 16 years old in high school, and I watched, like anybody, watched TV and saw a TV show about attorneys and thought I would like to do that. I didn't know any attorneys at the time, and I didn't really know what to do. I actually met a man who worked in administration at a large private university that was getting ready to open a law school, and he invited me, and I sat down and talked with him. But because of other things in my life, primarily finance, I got out of high school, and the better route, or the route I chose, was to go straight to work. So at age 30, I decided to go to college, to start college. And let me tell you what led up to that. Prior to that time, I'd worked in retail, I'd worked in construction, and immediately prior, at the time I turned 30, I was a hotel baker in Las Vegas. I worked in a bakery, making breads, making cakes, doing all of those things, and I really enjoyed it. And in fact, at one point, I thought about going to culinary school and becoming, an executive chef. And one morning, shortly after I turned 30, I woke up and I couldn't stand, couldn't get upright. And while we've been talking about Culinary Institute, we'd also looked at other ideas for schooling, but we hadn't made any decisions. And so I went through treatment. It took me about 2 weeks to be back on my feet, and they found that I had a congenital problem, defect in my back that was only going to get worse if I kept working in a job as physical as a baker. I wasn't. We were laughing about that the other day, both with my friend from law school and with my wife, that I wasn't doing the 24 cookies at a time that I now do in my kitchen at home. I was lifting 50 and 100-pound bags of sugar and flour to put into mixes, and so it was a physically demanding job.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, having that injury, I started talking to my wife, and she said, maybe it's time I go to school. And she said to me, what would you do with that? What would you study? And I just shrugged. I didn't know. I mean, it was late 80s. I said, well, I suggested computers. I'm not a math guy. I'm not a science guy. It really, I looked into it a little bit. It really did not appeal to me, other than the thought that, it obviously would be a good future career. but I
Mhm.
couldn't see myself devoting to that. And so as we talked, I started school. I did a couple of courses just to get my feet wet. And by the end of that first semester, I had decided, and I went back to my wife and I said, I want to pursue the career that I've been interested in and put aside since high school.
Mm.
And so she, I give great credit to my wife because she said to me, number one, how long will this take? And number two, will you be able to get a job or be employed when you finish this? The first answer was easy.
Right.
I told her I figured 10 years. And I started school in January of 1987, and I finished my law degree in May of 1997. So I did
Dang.
the 10 years.
Wow, you called it out,
I certainly would not say that.
huh?
The second part of it, though, was would I be able to find a job? And at that time, I had two good friends who were both attorneys. And I sat down with both of them, and they were at different stages in their careers. And both of them said to me, you will likely not be the candidate for the big firm or the corporate, or to be a corporate attorney, but you will be able to work as an attorney, maybe on your own, which is what I've ended up doing, or for a small firm. But the other thing that they assured me of was that my prior experience would be a benefit.
Mm.
And the thing that I found also to be a great benefit is my beard was almost completely white by the time I graduated from law school.
That's what I was saying. Going on your own, even though it was just 18 years ago, and you had, you look seasoned. I think going into a company, it's almost like, oh, this is someone new in the industry, right? Or someone new.
Right.
It might be hard, but opening your own, me coming in, you look seasoned, right? So it's like that.
Well, and I had that experience probably the first year that I had my license. I went to appear in court on a matter, and the opposing attorney, who is a man my age, but who had been at that point practicing for probably 15 or 20 years, and he looked me up and saw right there on California Bar's website that I'd been admitted 6 months ago or whatever it was. And so he came in expecting to find some guy around age 30. And to find me at age, what was I then? 41, 40, 45. I think I was about 45 then. And as I say, my beard was already white. He was startled at first. And, and then he had to, then he asked, well, I know you just got admitted in California. Where else have you been? And I'll admit that I hedged my answer a little bit because I started in a law firm in 1991. I've now been working in law firms for 30 years. So I just told him, I was previously in Las Vegas, where I had done my undergrad and worked with that first firm, which was true. And I've talked with him on numerous occasions since, and he's never brought up that I'm not a member of the Nevada bar. But I truthfully told him that's where I'd been. I just didn't, he could take whatever implication from it he wanted. So
you were licensed. He said, "Where else were you licensed?" He's more like, "Where'd you practice?" Like you worked. I mean, you were almost like a runner for a long time. So you've been.
And that first experience in Las Vegas in '91 was with a friend of mine at the time who loved the fact that I was there. I was a student. I was anxious to learn. And so he would just throw whatever at me. At one point, he had a case where a child had gotten into a neighbor while playing with the neighbor friend had gotten into some gunpowder and ended up losing a finger. The child did. And I became the firm's expert on gunpowder and storage and ownership of, etc., and the liability of that neighbor, because we found that they didn't, there even back in 91 in Nevada, there were regulations on how a gun owner had to store that kind of material. And and I still remember some of it because it was a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
Because I got to spend the time to find out this statute covers this, and it apply, and then find out and make sure that it applies equally to a homeowner as to the owner of a gun store or the manufacturer of handguns or ammunition, and so it was quite, for me at least, it was quite satisfying to do that.
Yeah.
And it made a difference. It made a difference.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's good. It does make a difference. I think, as much as we can educate people, the quicker we can do that, the better off they will be. And I love what you're doing. I love that we've been able to connect on LinkedIn. And what's the best way for people to reach you though? Like, because I know you, like, where are you primarily? We'll say.
Okay,
Lyle.
I'm physically located in Northern California.
Okay.
I'm only licensed in California, so I get questions all the time from people from other states, even, and as I've done since the beginning of my legal career, with family members who live in other states who would call and say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" I have to defer and say, I'm not licensed in that state. I won't even pretend to know the laws in another state. And I can get, I can be sanctioned. Yeah. I can be sanctioned if I'm answering questions and helping people in other states where I'm not licensed.
Right.
Having said that, the best way for people to meet, to connect with me or with an attorney, one of the attorneys associated in our network, is through the Oakview Law website, and to come and find us there. There's through our website. There's links to leave me messages and to find me, as well as to ask other questions, to be hooked up or find attorneys in other states and be able to ask and hopefully get answers or at least some direction on specific questions.
That's good. That's awesome. How many people are in your practice, your law firm? How many in the tribe?
Well, for Oakview Law Group, our number of attorneys is growing every week, and we're not a actual law firm, but we have an affiliation with attorneys that want to come up and be part of our network. So that number is, at least when I checked the other day, it was over 50, but I can't give you an exact number. Then we also have support staff, marketing, the people who reached out to you initially, as well as other staff that probably number closer to 100. So we're not a large company by any means, but we are growing and trying to grow. and
Yeah.
and trying to provide a service that
Mm.
um, to consumers that can be helpful.
Yes. That's wonderful, Lyle. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your services and support that you are bringing to people.
Well,
And you go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Have enjoyed talking with both of you. Hopefully that uh, I haven't rambled on too long. I get told every once in a while that, well, here comes the story, and
Hey,
Right? That's it.
stories are
But
good.
it's definitely been an honor to meet you, hear your stories. But I think that those that are listening to us, especially in the California area, I think reaching out just to get some insight, especially if you're in business or you're starting a business, just to get some insight on how to leverage an attorney the right way. They can actually reach out to you, right? Because I think it's so important. I don't think people understand how important an attorney is until you need one, right? And, and,
Yeah.
my,
and I,
one of my wife's favorite phrases is "stinking attorneys."
yeah,
And I remind her that means she has a different view on that than most people because she lives with me, so
Right.
she
Right.
actually sees me when I stink. But the if I can just share one quick thing in that regard, the value that an attorney can be. I was approached by a man, now it's been just over a year ago, and he said, I need to enforce this agreement. And I said, okay, let me review it. And I reviewed it, and I said, well, this is a very well written agreement. Um, what's the problem? And he says, the other party's breached. They aren't paying me. And I said, great, and I said, I can write a letter or I can file a lawsuit. He says, I'd rather pay you to file a lawsuit because my letters haven't woken this guy up at all. And so I filed a lawsuit, and I immediately got a call from the opposing party's attorney proposing an amendment to the agreement and to modify the terms a little bit so that his client could pay. Because, as he put it, as I thought from reading the initial agreement, and that attorney has later expressed to me that the agreement was written well enough that they didn't have a chance if they opposed it. In fact, the one term that I really loved in the agreement was a term that said, in the event of breach of this agreement, and legal action has to be taken, the prevailing party in that legal action is entitled to their legal fees and costs for having to bring the action. And that phrase alone, that term
Yeah.
alone, was enough to make my opponent, the opposing attorney, go to his client and say,
Hey.
figure out a way to pay this and tell me what you can do, and I will go try and negotiate it. Because if we go to court, I believe you're going to lose, number one. And number two, when you lose, you're not going to just owe the money that you haven't paid so far, but you're going to owe attorney's fees.
right.
So to me, while I'm not the one who wrote that agreement, I got the benefit of going and enforcing it on behalf of my client. And that right there was what, to me, proved the worth, and proved to my client the worth of having sat down with an attorney and having that work done.
You were able to find the phrase that pays. Like, look, that's real that time. This is a real one. That's a real one.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Well, I definitely, my advisor told me, if you want your company to grow, you better have an attorney and a CPA that are your friends, that you invite to your Christmas parties, that you invite to company functions, because they're going to be in the long run with you, and those everybody else can hang around, but those two are going to save your you know what
Yep. Yep.
in the car.
Exactly. I mean, everybody, like my wife, everybody I know complains about attorneys and what they cost and everything until they, excuse me, until they need one.
Right.
And
That's it. That's it.
oftentimes, I
It's
mean,
kind of late.
my hope is always that when a client needs me, they find out that I am worth the cost.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well
Mm-hmm.
said. Well said.
You know, before you leave, Lyle, I forgot to ask you the best question we ask all our guests. Okay, it's one question we ask everyone, and it's this. You know, we'll say God, the universe, or a genie, whatever one fits into your mold, comes to you and says, "You get one wish. You get one anything you want. It can be. What would that one thing be? It can be whatever you desire, any category. What would that one thing be?
Accept more wishes.
Except more wishes, of course.
Right. No, no. I'm gonna be sound a little naive, but the one thing that the longer I live, the one thing that I really wish for is um, I'm not going to say world peace, but I'm going to say you know more understanding amongst people
Mm.
and being able to get along. It's to me it is everything else falls to the wayside if
Yep.
you can't have those that you love around you and that you
Yeah.
can't have a good understanding and more tolerance of others maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's good.
That's really good. And
That's good.
most you surprised, doesn't matter who's on our podcast, it's never really driven towards what they do. It's driven about what the world can do for others. Right.
right.
Hmm.
And that's what you just said. So yeah, it makes total sense. Love
What you
it.
can do for others, man. That's so awesome. Well, I thank you for your time, Lyle. I do believe we are moving into a place where that wish of yours is becoming more of a reality because we're waking up and we're getting more connected. And the more we wake up and get connected, the more of what we need to get connected gets connected. Rewind that back, play it. But that's the truth. Lyle, you my friend, being on the show, and please click on his face here and follow him on LinkedIn and check him out. And thank you again for sharing your wisdom, my friend.
Pleasure meeting you, Lyle. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Really enjoyed myself today.
Bye bye.
Take
Bye
care.
now.
Yeah, man, that's good. That was
Um,
great, and that's
yeah, man.
good insight right there, man. Really good insight. I'm glad we were driving home too the importance of attorneys and having them
It
because
is, man. You don't realize it until you need, like you said, you don't realize until you need it, man. And I think our advisors, just being able to say, you know what, we need to get this ahead of time and get it going. Our CPA and our attorney, they help us turn the corner really, really fast, real
hmm
fast, right? Get a hold on our all of our contracts, make sure that we're in the right place, make sure that we're CYA, and then also our books, making
hmm
sure that we can make sure that our numbers look good, make sure that we're not spending what we need to spend and things like that. It's a big process, man, and
huge,
having people in our in our
huge,
in our circle is big. So yeah, man. It's already been an
and
hour.
yeah, it's been an hour, man. Because we started about 5 minutes behind, but then we kicked it. Then he came in and he had a lot to say and share, and so it was great. But I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave until we show the clip of this webinar next week. 'Cause we only do one webinar a month.
Right,
And
right.
let me tell you, let me tell you something, guys. Like for information that is this rich, meaning like this important and this impactful, it's typically a paid webinar. Like, we pay to be on them. Well, we've been a part of paid ones, and you pay
That's
because
it.
this information is so important, so important. but we're doing it for free.
It's free. That's the thing about it. It's free, man. And the people that will jump on here will walk away with something for sure. It doesn't matter if you're in a business, they're going to walk away with something, whether you take the actions on you, but you're going to be prepared for what's already here and what's coming down the pipeline. So yeah, this would be a great webinar to get on it. Yeah, roll it, man.
Yeah, I'll roll it right now. Check it out.
RPA is currently the fastest growing technology in the software industry, and it's estimated in the next 2 years to grow over 50%. That means by 2023, every business will know what RPA is, and about half of them will have some kind of RPA implementation within their own organization. What does this mean for you? It means you need to know what it is, how it works, and the best part, you don't have to be a tech genius. Simply Automate will be hosting a webinar that will help shed some light on how it works and how you can take advantage of it without investing your time and money. This webinar will educate you on what RPA is and how you can take advantage of it for your business in less than 30 days. And we will do it all in 30 minutes. We have created a blueprint that will get you on the fast track to benefiting from this amazing technology overnight. There has never been anything like this. If you want to be ahead of the game and learn how to automate what you are already doing, then join us this month for an RPA 101 webinar. These 30 minutes will give you insight on how the Fortune 500 have been growing so fast year after year. There is a next level of automation, and it's called RPA. Join us this month for the 30-day blueprint to automation success.
Yeah, man.
Yes. Yep. And that's not a lie. It's a fact. It's your blueprint. It's your blueprint, and for your success. And it is less than 30 days, and that is a fact. It doesn't matter the industry you're in. It does not matter the industry you're in. You can in CPAs, manufacturing, property management, law practice. I mean, doesn't matter. If you are doing anything that has to do with business processes, that means you're in business. If you're doing that, there is a way to speed up what you're doing, and there's a way to take stress off what you are doing.
It is.
Well,
so did we drop the link? Did we drop the links there on LinkedIn and on Facebook? Just go to our Facebook page and our LinkedIn page, and you'll be able to see that. Go live on your chat. I think we're live on yours, so it'll be on yours. But yeah, man, that's it. So let's roll out of here. You can hear my kids are trying to knock down my door, so I got to figure out, that it's time. They said 3 o'clock. It's like they know. No, right? It's like, all right.
Tell them thanks for holding on.
Yeah, man. So
go ahead and get registered. Next Tuesday is the webinar. The link's down there. Listen, the most important thing you can do with information that you have is take action with it in some way, shape, or form. Take action. Okay?
Hey, man, before we head on out, leave them with a testimony from one of our clients, the other client from Amira, and then we'll jet on out of here. So, all right.
Sounds like a plan.
Right on.
I mean, I'm biased on this because I was the one dealing with her system and pulling data for the most part, providing all that information to people. So just not having to go into our system every day is amazing.
That's
yeah. As I said, it just takes a lot of the mental workload off of someone, not having to deal with those problems all the time. But also, like, another example would be there is this great process, which was our second project basically with them, is like there's this one guy who implemented this amazing workflow for one of our value streams, and he's like, it's always up to date because he's using it to assess metrics, so he knows how to keep it because he built it and etc. But we wanted to expand it out to the other value streams, but that one guy can't maintain the entire system for all regions by himself. So it was kind of like we weren't able to get it across to other sites just like that, oh, we'll just invest 10 more hours a week and get it done kind of thing. Like no one took over that response because no one really understood it. So RPA enabled that option for us to just expand it out ourselves and have the maintaining side taken care of by RPA.
That's so good. I'm so glad for you too. I'm so glad for you.
Me too.
Oh my goodness.